Hello everyone, welcome to episode 116 of Level Up, 60 minutes of live Q&A where your questions, chat and votes drive the show. As we get underway today, please do let our social team know your name and the city you're joining from. We really do love to get to know our audience and get everyone involved. My colleagues Ella and Shanice are online and they will post a link in the chat to vote up the questions that you would most like answered and of course for you to add in your own questions. If your question is selected, your name will appear in the credits at the end of the show, so get yours in early and stay with us to see that happen. Please do take a moment today to like, comment, share and subscribe. It doesn't cost you anything and it really helps new people discover our content. The topic for today's show is innovation with design thinking, and I'm really looking forward to putting your questions to the panel. Design, of course, encompasses a key aspect of every project, product or solution, and it determines how a customer interacts with your product and provides a key insight into how your organization is perceived. Working with a design thinking approach can help you unlock your creativity and drive innovation. So that's enough from me. Let's jump straight into the show and meet today's panel. So returning panelist, Thijs Loggen is a freelance trainer, facilitator and coach. With his background in psychology and NLP, Thijs quickly assesses individuals and teams and responds in a way that best enhances their learning trajectory. He uses many different facilitative techniques and can adapt on the spot to what is happening in training or in a workshop in the moment to maximize the learning effect for the participants. Welcome back, Thijs.
Thank you for allowing me to come back. So looking forward to the session today.
And joining us for another episode is Luca Gambetti. After spending 20 years in different roles in the information technology industry, Luca decided to start his own company, Equality Italia, whose purpose is to have a positive impact on the Italian organizations by training and coaching their leaders. Luca works as a trainer and coach himself and is the only Italian coach for the Getting Things Done methodology. Welcome back, Luca.
Thank you for having me here.
Very welcome. So one of our new panelists to today's Level Up show is Rafal. Rafal is the Director of Innovation and Development at Inprogress Design Labs. Since 2009, he's been designing processes, products, and services. Rafal is also the lead author of DT Method, a methodology that helps to apply design thinking in an organization. Thanks for joining us, Rafal.
Thank you very much for invitation. Nice being here.
Also making his Level Up debut is Sascha Tombült. Sascha is currently working as a business analyst in a large project for a B2B client in the health department, which requires design thinking methods to identify improvements for CPQ software. Sascha has also got many years' experience as a business analyst for several German public projects. Hi, Sascha.
Hi, glad to be here.
And completing today's panel is Imtiaz Kaderbhoy. Imtiaz is currently a trainer focused on business analyst and project management courses. He also mentors junior business analysts who are in the UK Business Analyst Apprenticeship Scheme and speaks at conferences including Agile on the Beach and the IIBA conference in South Africa this year. Welcome to the show, Imtiaz.
Thank you very much. Looking forward to the next hour.
And joining us today in the question master role is Adriana. Hi, Adriana.
Hi, Ellie.
May we have our first question for the panel, please?
Of course. So our first question comes from Angelica. And are there situations that design thinking is not recommended to use?
Okay, let's get started then, panel. So Thijs, I think you were first, and then Rafal, please, on this one.
Yeah, so I really consider design thinking as another tool in your toolbox. There's a mindset, a method, and probably we'll go a bit into that more today. But as any tool, they're better to use for some situations than other situations. So I would start maybe with a few situations design thinking is very applicable for. And one analogy I like is the difference between mysteries and puzzles. Puzzles you can solve with analytical, looking and figuring how it works. But mysteries you can't solve analytically, so you have to use a different framework for that. And design thinking is a good way. So I would say if it's very simple, it's very obvious. You have a lot of data. you can figure it out. You don't need design thinking per se. You can just use your general normal methods.
Great, thanks very much for getting us started with that one, Thijs. Rafal, your thoughts, please, on this one.
Yes, for me, design thinking is for finding something new, some new solutions which you want to implement to your company, answer to the question that you don't know the answer. So if you know the answer, if you specifically know what you want to create through the project management or program management and initiative of change, maybe design thinking is not the best option. But if there are people involved, I would consider using that.
Great, that's brilliant. Thanks very much. Nice, short, clear answer to that first question. Adriana, can we welcome you back for our second question, please?
Of course, Ellie. So our next question comes from Joanna, and she wants to know, the world existed without using design thinking. Why is there such a strong tendency to use this approach now? What happens if we don't use design thinking?
Okay, thanks. That's a great question. So we'll have Sascha, then Thijs, Luca, and Rafal, please.
So design thinking is a mixture of some tools and tool sets, and actually parts of it have always been kind of there, but some people, some smart people, put all these tools together into one big concept, one big method, and therefore I think it's not the fact that all these tools and these parts that have been put together, just people realize that they are good use. That is basically the thing that's happening now. So, in my opinion, it has always been there, but maybe not as this whole concept, which is it now, and which is still developing.
Okay, great. Thank you very much, Sascha. Thijs, your thoughts, please.
Yeah, so I think what Sascha said really well is that in some ways the design thinking has matured so more. So I think that's why it's also more recognized as it is now. And at the same time, the problems we're facing are problems which really need design thinking more. So design thinking, if you look at its origins, is from around the 60s that the first formation started, and the 1890s got properly developed, and now it's really maturing and getting more adopted. But it's fitting very well for very complex projects where innovation is needed, where a lot of people ambiguity is. And if you see in our current world, it's getting more crazy, it's getting more complex, getting more volatile. So the complexity is increasing enormously, and that really needs different methods like design thinking to be able to solve those problems. And if you look at the World Economic Forum, if they look at these skills you need for the future, complex problem solving is one of the biggest one, and design thinking is all about that. So I think that's why it's also increasing in popularity right now.
Yeah, I think everybody can relate to that. Next, we have Luca, please, on this question.
Yes, I agree with my colleagues in the panel. I would only like to add that nowadays we would like to involve more people. We believe that everyone can make a contribution. This is true now more than in the past, due to the fact that we are working on knowledge. We are not working on machines or things. We are working on knowledge.
Yeah, absolutely right. Right, Rafal, please, can you finish us off on this one?
Yes, of course. I think that the world was focused on processes and procedures to create any value to develop organizations. And that focus on processes was very important because we had to develop the efficient methods of work. But now, when those processes are good, are maybe great, now we need to focus on people, which is design thinking. We need to focus on creating solutions which will meet people's needs. And I think that's why now it is gaining more popularity in organizations, and not only in organizations.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Thank you for that one. So Adriana, can we have another question, please?
Of course, Ellie. So our next question is from Hannah, and she wants to know, what was the most interesting problem you applied design thinking to?
Yeah, great question, Hannah. So, panel, you have used this approach with a multitude of different areas. What's the most interesting? Who's going to go first for me on this one? Rafal, I'll come to you first, please.
Yes, okay. I cooperated with the company Grand Parade. It's a part of William Hill. We worked on the topic of inclusivity. The challenge was to create workspace where people want to work, a place where people want to work. And Grand Parade is a multicultural organization with people from all over the world. They speak in 30 languages in the office in Krakow. So the team I led developed a number of solutions about the more inclusiveness and let's say celebrate the diversity of team members. So that was one of the most, I think, important topics which I worked with organization. But another one, sorry for taking two topics at once, but another very interesting challenge was preparing the design of a new building for one of our clients. The company decided to involve representatives from different departments of the organization and create a draft or design of this new building. And our work was then used by architects to create an architectural plan, and that work was amazing as well.
Brilliant. That's incredible, isn't it? Two very different examples there from Rafal. Thijs, can you give us your thoughts on your most interesting problem you applied this to?
Yeah, and I think very apt what you say is design thinking can be used for anything, almost anything, services, products, digital, physical. That makes it really great, but also sometimes tricky, like where to start and how to apply it. But so I use it also for quite a variety for internal innovation projects when I still worked at Capgemini. So we just to say we had like 3 different projects. One was developing a way to be more sustainable for cars and the lease cars that we used. So we were looking like how can we manipulate in the right way people's behavior to be more sustainable with their lease car usage, which is a big problem. Another one was improving mental health in the organization because there was a lot of things going on physical health and emotional well-being. But we see mental health as stress and burnout being a big problem. So we use it there to figure out how can we take a bit away from the taboo and allow people to speak more about these mental health issues or things they're facing. And the third one was, gosh, I don't even remember anymore, but I think it was an internal project around employee growth. So we wanted to figure out how can we trigger more the intrinsic motivation to grow as a professional instead of only like the external motivation like salary or promotion. So 3 very different topics, all had this human and tech combination, and we could all use design thinking for that to figure out some new innovation in there.
Amazing. So yeah, we've had everything from emotional well-being to building a building so far. Imtiaz, what are your thoughts on this one, please?
Yeah, so a few years ago, I came onto a project kind of about sort of quarter of the way through, and the aim of the project was to build a digital dashboard for a bunch of different departments to solve, I guess, a few problems that were existing. And sort of upon joining it, I almost went back to the beginning of the design thinking method around customer needs and wants, problem statements, and actually took my stakeholders on a journey that made them rethink the reason for the project. And through my work, got them thinking about real problem statements, real customer needs and wants. and then almost in the end, just through that analysis, reformulating the project that in the end turned out it wasn't really data and dashboards and MI that was going to solve the business problem. It was actually a bunch of other more business-focused activities that needed to change. They were actually fairly quick to implement, then enabled the benefit to occur. So yeah, that was kind of one of my first experiences at using sort of design thinking in the workplace.
Yeah, brilliant. Hugely valuable then for you and that particular project. Sascha, can you finish us off on this one, please?
Yes, it's a project I'm actually currently working on. I'm working with a society, a German society. In Germany, societies are like they're dying in a way. So this society had the vision to somehow change and maybe even change the rules of engagement towards their members and towards their surroundings. And so we are currently working on this. And this is, since design thinking is a continuous thing, method, so we are working on there currently. This is very interesting since it's
sounds
marketing.
amazing. It's a great variety from all of you. Thank you for the question, Hannah. Really, really interesting one. Adriana, can we welcome you back for another question, please?
Of course, Ellie. So now we actually have a live question. It's coming from Diane. She's watching from YouTube. And she wants to know, what are some innovation standards to include in design thinking to achieve a sustainable competitive advantage?
Great question. Thanks, Diane. So Thijs, will come to you first, then Luca.
Hello, Diane. Thank you for watching. Great to have you on the show. And I'm not specifically sure what you mean with innovation standards, but I'm assuming it's somewhere in the line of, are there some best practices or guidelines, what to do anyway, what always to include in your design thinking to make sure you do the best things. And if you're hearing in this, and I think Imtiaz gave a great example just now, it's like we're focusing on business often so much on what we call the solution space, like making the solutions. But it's so really important to start with the problem space first and figuring out who is our customers, what are their underlying needs, what's the persona, emotion aside as well. Really getting back to that, what's their problem, and then go on to like what kind of solution do we need to build. So if there's any standard thing I need to say you need always to do is start with empathy. Really don't take your assumptions for truth. Start with figuring out what's really the problems with your customers, and only then go into the solution space.
Great, thank you so much for that one. Luca, your thoughts, please.
Yes, I have also some difficulties understanding what is exactly innovation standard, but this is my interpretation. One thing that in my experience was fundamental is to introduce a safety culture in your organization. I mean, everyone should feel safe to talk about their ideas, their experience. This is not usual in the organization I knew here in Italy. So you definitely need a deep change culture. It could took years to have this change of culture, and then you see the magic coming. So my first standard is culture.
Okay, thank you, Luca. That's really helpful. We're actually going to come to Imtiaz as well on this one, please.
Yeah, I guess just to build on what Luca said, for me, people drive that innovation. And when we began to implement design thinking, it was the inclusion of the right people in all the sessions, as opposed to maybe in some environments or some cultures focusing on maybe the most senior people, or just funneling it into maybe the people that we think are the most important, but actually having that inclusivity of including everyone, including customers of all types in the process, actively engaged and also continually engaged. So one of the key lessons for me was including customers at the early stage, but also going back to them if I'm going to wireframe, prototype, or even implement a tiny feature or function, but actually including the people throughout the journey and not just at specific points where traditionally we may think they're more relevant or more useful.
Yeah, thank you for that, Imtiaz. Rafal, your thoughts, please?
Yes, very important thing told Thijs and Imtiaz as well about the problem, about inviting people, about taking care of them. One more thing which I'd like to add is focusing on data, because a lot of people, when think about design thinking, they think that we should be intuitive about what people think. We shouldn't. We should make some research. We should collect some data from people about people. And that's what I just wanted to add to those voices.
Thanks, Rafal. Thijs, I'm just going to come back to you quickly on this question, if you've got something further to add, please.
Yeah, one thing I specifically want to add was to chip in on the word sustainable. So I understand also a lot of people work in sustainability at the moment, and it's a really huge topic. And one of the things I really love about design thinking, it's being used a lot in also social entrepreneurship and these kind of areas. So one example was in India, there were a lot of people with eye problems, and they wanted to make contact lenses easily available for them. So they figured out the problem space really well first, and then they looked, how can we, with constraints, look at solutions. So they were able to figure out solutions that are much more viable and sustainable and having less cost, so they could make it available to people with low income. So it's very easy sometimes to think of big solutions and very complicated and complex, but when you actually tune into the problem space really good, you'll often find you can make the solution easier, cheaper, better, and more sustainable. So that's, I think, why also design can give a huge advantage if you want to work more sustainable.
Yeah, thanks, Thijs. That's really helpful. So, Diane, I hope that was a good answer for you, and keep your questions coming in. And Adriana, what's our next question, please?
Thank you, Ellie. So our next question comes from Paulina, and she wants to know, as I understood, design thinking requires many meetings and time for researchers, which leads me to the conclusion that this method is expensive. Would you agree?
Okay, panel. So we'll start with Luca, and then we'll go to Rafal, and then Thijs, please, and then Imtiaz. Oh, whole panel answer. Everybody's coming in. Go ahead, Luca.
Yes, it could be a little bit expensive. That means you need a few meetings, and you need also a research, you need also data. But any mistake is a lot costlier. So you have a little space just to understand what you're doing before starting the actual work. And this is priceless. It's absolutely worthwhile.
Yeah, absolutely. Rafal, your thoughts, please.
I'm a psychologist, and as a psychologist, I can say it depends as an answer to this question. It depends, because it depends what kind of methods you are going to use when you want to use design thinking. Because design thinking, as I understand it, it's an approach, just like a project management is an approach. And you can do these things in different ways. In project management, you have Agile PM. In design thinking, you can use different methods, for example, DT method. And it depends. Yes, in some methods, when you use design thinking, you need to meet with people, you need to have a few meetings, invest 16, 20 hours to work on that with a team. So this is a cost. But according to IBM's and Forrester's article about implementing design thinking in IBM's project management, there is a lot of benefits of using design thinking, because the project time was shortened when the design thinking was used at the beginning of the project. The costs were less. There was much less change requests during the projects. So a lot of benefits you reach by using design thinking before you start the development process in project management area, for example.
Thanks, Rafal. That's really great. Thijs, your thoughts, please.
Yeah, I think what comes already forward in the examples giving is maybe more front loading some of the expenses instead of back loading in. So because you do invest more on the beginning, you save a lot of costs down the road. So I think it's more a different timing of certain expenses. A lot of research shows when you have a more diverse team and look at things from more angles, etc., your product eventually usually is better or more longer term sustainable as well. So again, those are some reasons to apply design thinking as well. So actually it saves you a lot of money, but it might cost you a bit more in the beginning, especially when you're still learning about design thinking. You won't get results as quick as you might want them. It's not a holy grail, so you need some time to learn. So also calculate that in. But in the end, I think it does save a lot. And one quote I really like is, if a picture is worth 1,000 words, a prototype is worth 1,000 meetings. So actually, you will need to do more workshops and meetings anyway. And if you make it very focused and use prototypes and get customer data, etc., it will save you so much just blah, blah, blah meetings. And that will save you so much time and frustration and money in the road. So yeah, that's my 2 cents.
Absolutely. Put the effort in up front and you'll be rewarded later on. Imtiaz, your thoughts, please.
I guess in a nutshell, just do it. And I guess what I mean by that is, as a business analyst, we're often not at the top table in conversations, deciding which framework, which method to use, the timelines, and everything else. But I just began to implement some of the techniques in my work as a BA. So I began to do, for instance, the NABC matrix when ideating. I began doing solution interviews with my stakeholders post an implementation, which actually was quite a new thing, especially in a traditional, heavily gated waterfall environment. Nobody really went back to ask people, how did I do? In fact, I began just to do it, and through implementing these subtle, different ways of working, then almost bought me the license to talk about, the bigger umbrella called design thinking that it came from. So yeah, I would just say, and I guess it's really hard to convince management, get money for courses and implement new ways of working. Sometimes just getting involved and making change happen can, begin to impact change.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. I think, often bringing these things in gradually and proving the value can help to get buy-in from the rest of the organization as you need it. Okay, Sascha, please finish us off on this question.
Okay. So I think almost everything has been said already. So just to wrap it up, imagine you're just developing a product and you're doing it based on assumptions. And in the end, you can't sell it. Then you have a big loss in that case. But if you have done some design thinking methods used during the process, you can eradicate errors, and in the end, you have a product that the users really, really want. So that's basically my wrap up.
Yeah, absolutely. Makes total sense. Adriana, please, can we have another question for our panel?
Of course, Ellie. So we have another live question from Michelle Morgan. And she wants to know, can the panel share any examples when design thinking was used to address HR challenges?
Yeah, absolutely. I think they definitely can. Thijs, we'll come to you first and then Rafal, please.
Yeah, this is HR is great because it's a lot about people, right? And again, as it came forward a lot of time, it's design thinking is a lot about people. A few examples I can give is onboarding. So the onboarding process, you can't imagine how horrible it can be sometimes. I remember this company, you just get a random email a few days ahead, like be there at this time, and you don't know what's going to happen. As you can imagine from an empathy perspective, you're very excited, you come to your new job, you want to know what's going to happen, you want to know what should I wear, should I bring something to eat or not. So there's a lot of that you just don't know when you don't think about it. So using things like shadowing or observing people in the empathize phase, you'll find out the actual experience for onboarding. Then you find a lot of opportunities to enhance the employee onboarding journey. That's a great one. We also used it for internal learning. So you often have these learning portals, and they're actually not that user-friendly in design, in my experience. So when designing a new one, we really want to figure out like what's important to our employees, because that might be different to another company. So if you have a very standard one-size-fits-all solution, it might not be the ideal fit. So how can we really empower them? So we again need to start with empathize and figure out what they need. So HR challenges are really great for design thinking.
Yeah, great. Thanks so much. Thijs, Rafal, your thoughts, please.
I worked with this IT company which had a problem with recruitment process because they wanted to recruit people who fits the organization needs, which the people who have certain competences, but they couldn't recruit these people which they wanted to. And they didn't know why during recruitment processes people disappeared. And this was a big question mark in HR department heads. And the answer during design thinking process was that recruitment process was too long. And during design thinking, they shortened it, and it works better now. But it needed to use a lot of tools to find a solution for that.
Yeah, some great examples there. Thank you. Imtiaz, can you just finish us off on this one? I think you've got some thoughts to add.
Yeah, I guess a bit of a tangent on the HR, but I was on a depot project once, and the process was quite clear about how you pick a product, right? Collect your sheet, pick, go to shelf, and continue. But actually, when we overlaid the customer journey map, i.e., the picker's journey, we began to unpick, similar to the onboarding process, right? All the problems, all the pains, all the unhappiness that was in that process being felt by the people doing the job. Whether it's time, motion, environment, cold. Didn't tell you that in winter the wind's blowing and the snow's coming in and its hands are frozen and it takes 4 times as long, right? And so similar to that onboarding, just getting down to that level of people, empathy, compassion, a real understanding of the customer, or in this case, the internal colleague, but really understanding their needs and wants really helped us to kind of build a great business solution to fix the problem.
Yeah, thank you for that. Some great examples there, panel. Michelle, I hope that was useful. Please keep those questions coming in. And Adriana, please, can we have our next question?
Thank you, Ellie. So we have another live question from Ricardo. He's watching today from LinkedIn. And his question is it practical or even possible to compare ISO 56000 with design thinking? Or can you use both to complement your process of innovation?
Okay, thanks, Ricardo. So ISO 56000 panel. we're coming up with some,
yeah, I must say I'm not familiar. Yeah, so I just Googled it very quickly. That's the profit for doing an online video. You can just Google it and say something clever very quickly. But I must say I not familiar with ISO. I do see it's a innovation framework, so there must be commonalities. Like I think what's possible, what's needed is design thinking is also really structured, right, and chaotic at the same time. So within that structure, you have your chaos and you iterate a lot. I think with every innovation framework, there are a lot of opportunities and things that help you. So figure out what helps you most. It's not necessary per se to compare it. Just use things of design thinking, maybe add it to your framework. If you use ISO already, and just add the things you like from design thinking to it. I think those so in the end, it doesn't really matter whether you do design thinking in the way it should be done. It's what matters. Do you develop better solutions? Do you get more innovation? Are you getting happier employees and customers? That's really the most important thing. So the mindset is more important than the framework in the end.
Yeah, thanks so much for that, Thijs. Ricardo, it's not often we manage to stump the panel. I will set some homework for the panel to go and research the ISO 56000 standard, and we'll come back to you with a definite answer on that one. Adriana, can we have our next question, please?
Of course. Our next question comes from Alessandra. And the question is, talking about design thinking, I encountered the concept of wicked problem. What is it exactly?
Hey, Thijs, we're coming back to you again, and then Luca, please.
Yeah, wicked problems are problems where there's not an easy solution for it. So it's like these, it's sometimes called also big hairy problems, or you have these different kind of versions around. They always sound a bit weird, but it's those big complex problems that often we don't know also what the source is from. So it's not a clear cut. We can deduce the root causes from it. Very much things are intertangled. So if we want to change one speech here, something else there gets changed. So and they're very, I would say, often human focused. And so a lot of the problems we're facing now are wicked problems, like what's happening with Russia, with the gas, with the bigger nature impacts like river floodings that we have. These are all wicked problems. There are no easy solutions, and we need a lot of diverse perspectives and trying out to find some possible solutions or improvements on that. So, yeah, basically life.
Yeah. Thanks, Thijs. Your thoughts, Luca, on this one, please.
Yes, okay, I agree with Thijs. I would only like to add that wicked problems are often ambiguous. That means there is no correct solution. There is not a single solution. For example, you have many stakeholders in your project, and everyone has a different idea. And you have to find something that makes everyone happy. This could be an example of a wicked problem.
Perfect. Thanks, Luca. Imtiaz, your thoughts on this question for Alexander, please.
Yeah, I guess not to fully agree with what the guys have said. I used it in a work environment, I guess. The problem was the company was, I guess, profits were going down. There'd been a redundancy program that had just happened, and they ran one of those staff surveys, right? So you can imagine morale low, skill levels perceived to be low, ability to do the job, everything was just low. Every kind of indicator was, as you can imagine, just not in a healthy place. And so we applied a lot of, and that in our heads was more of a wicked problem, right? It was a global issue spanning the whole company that was impacting the key resource, right? i.e. people, massively complex. And we had to tackle it using a number of ways, using a lot of the early design thinking kind of stages, implemented various workshops and interviews and truth finding exercises to really get down to that root cause type of thing, right? Easy to go give everyone an extra Christmas shopping day, or have a bigger budget for the Christmas party. But does it really solve the core of the problem? So it can be applied to a work environment, but it's got wicked kind of implies really complex and multiple ways to solve a problem or problems.
Brilliant. Thanks, Imtiaz. I love it when I pick up new terms on these level up sessions. Adriana, can we invite you back for the next question, please?
Of course, Ellie. Our next question comes from Anna Meg, and she wants to know, how can I use design thinking in my everyday life?
A great question. How do we use design thinking in our everyday life? Luca, we'll start with you, then Thijs, then Sascha, please.
Yes, I discovered that there are in personal development many concepts that were taken from the design thinking idea. For example, talking about getting things done, the methodology from David Allen. This methodology includes something that is called the natural planning model. That is basically the double diamond model in design thinking. It's more or less the same. That means in my everyday life means nothing is a problem, everything is a project. So when I think I have a problem, I should reframe that problem as a project. Then I should brainstorm possible solution and organize and converge possible solution and start with a practical next action. This is basically design thinking, but in the GTD methodology, it is called the natural planning model. This is a simple example.
Yeah, thanks, Luca. I love that. Nothing is a problem, everything's a project. That's brilliant. Thijs, can we bring you in on this one, please?
Yeah, I really loved indeed the example of Luca, and you see so many. When you start looking life through design thinking, you'll just see it in many ways so normal part of life. Actually, you adapt to things, and I have a few books here. One is from Michael Lurick, and he actually wrote a book with some others called the Design Thinking Life Playbook, where he really adopts all these design thinking tools to your own personal life. So it's a fun one. If you really want to get into it, Anna, you could definitely check that book out. But it's, often we get tracked in our like small way of thinking about things. We have a problem and think, oh, I can only either do this or that. And then that's really a moment to think, okay, what's really the problem here? Define it. Doing an ideation brainstorm session, think of different options, choose the most interesting, design an experiment, do something, see what works. So you can be so creative. And one of the statements I really love about design thinking is how might we. So when we have a problem, we reformulate it to how might we XYZ, right? And then you just get into this creative mode. You'll find so much more options. So just when you meet something in your personal life, you get stuck and then you think, how might I ... That will help you a lot in your creative problem-solving mode.
Yeah, great answer. Thanks for that. Sascha, your thoughts, please.
I will use an example. I've built a house, actually the house that I'm sitting in right now. And I kind of use design thinking methods in the beginning because there was an old house and I was challenged with the decision, renew the old one or build a new one. And I had many decisions, many complex decisions. And the first thing was desirability, which is a big thing in design thinking. So I was like, what is it that I really want? And what is it that maybe others that are involved in the process, maybe people I'm going to live with, what are their needs? And we did a lot of research, 1.5 years of research. And also we used Lego, for example, to build tiny houses. And we went there's ridiculous images with us running with poles through the garden, imagining how tall and how big and everything's going to be. So we actually used models and prototypes before we actually had the plan and talked to the architect and so forth. So this is like the one example that I used it, and I'm very pleased with the result.
Yeah, looks great. And all trainers love a bit of Lego, don't they? We do know that.
Yeah,
okay, we're going to go to Rafal next, and then we'll come to Imtiaz just to finish this one off, please.
I think that using design thinking in your private life is much more intuitive and easy than in your business, or in organization, because it's easier to engage different stakeholders. If you want to go on a trip with your family, it's normal that you ask them what they want, what they need. Would they even go with you on that trip, or where that trip? You plan, you make prototypes and look at the pictures. You check in the internet how others did. So I think that a lot of design thinking parts, elements we use in our private life. But what we could do is just to find and learn a few tools which can be used in real design thinking business processes, and think about adopting them to your private life. Maybe some of these tools will help you with your private matters.
Brilliant. Thank you so much for that from Rafal. And Imtiaz, super quick on this one so we can move on to our last question. Thank you.
Yeah, so my dad used to say children should be seen and not heard, right? The mantra that I was brought up with almost. But during lockdown, in the early phases, I was guilty of solutionizing for my kids, right, and family life. And problems occurred from that. And what we did do, kind of enough was enough. Got everyone around the table, hot chocolates, bags of sweets. And what we did was listen to each other, right? Because we all had problems, all had big challenges, right? Of varying different angles. And I can't understand what my 8-year-old's thinking, right? Because they're 8. And so we listened, we talked, we listened some more. We wrote down all our biggest frustrations, our, whatever was going on in our head. And together we came up with some ways to live with each other, frankly, because we had to for many months. So yeah, you can apply it, right? Adapting to change. Yeah, like I said, give it a go.
Yeah, and certainly the start of lockdown could be referred to as a wicked problem, as I've learned today. Right, thanks very much, panel, for the answer to that one. Adriana, can you come back for what may well be the last question of today's show?
Of course, Ellie. So for our last question, we have another live question. It's coming from Aaron Wimberley, and he is watching us right now from LinkedIn. And the question is, would you say root cause analysis is an effective tool to pair with design and systems thinking?
Okay, thanks, Aaron, for your question. Panel, root cause analysis as an effective tool for design thinking. Thijs, thank you. We'll come to you. And then Luca, please.
I think root cause analysis is a great tool to use. Again, I think what we spoke about a bit earlier in the show, whether you catch it, otherwise you could replay it maybe later on, Aaron, is that often the complex problems where we use design thinking for, you can't easily do yet that root cause analysis. There's not enough data, or it's too conflicting, or it's too ambiguous, or whatever. So it's difficult sometimes to do really a root cause analysis. What I would say is if you do design thinking or systems thinking and try to see what's going on, what are the different factors and how are they interlinked, and you gather data with empathy, observing, interviews, whatever, then it's really a good moment to do the root cause analysis, figure out, okay, from this blurry set of data, how can we get the nuggets out? How can we get the red threads out? And so then we move to the problem statement and solution space. We are really focusing on the right thing. So yes, after we've collected the right data.
Perfect. Thank you, Thijs. Luca, we're coming to you next on this one, please.
Totally agree. Just bring personal experience. I used many times the Ishikawa diagrams. So that is one of the techniques of the root cause analysis in order to understand what happened into production. First, you collect data, then you diverge, doing a hypothesis on what could possibly have gone wrong, and then you proceed with the other techniques in order to converge.
Yeah, thanks, Luca. So you guys were super quick on that one. So we do actually have time for one more question. So Adriana, have we got another question for the panel, please?
Of course, Ellie. So we have another question from Paulina, and she wants to know, would you say design thinking can be used in a public sector as well? If yes, how exactly?
Yeah, Sascha, this absolutely seems like the right person to answer this one. So we'll come
That's
to you
my
first.
question. Okay, so I have to admit I used it in the past in the public sector successfully. I kind of sneaked in the methodology, kind of, because in the public sector people are quite difficult to oh, I'm lacking the word. It's hard to make them apply a new methodology. In Germany, there is the V model XT, and they love it. They cling to it very much. But we were able with my team. I was able to add all the methods in the process. We used it very very sneakily during the process while we are doing the waterfall project, and had all the interviews. We had user journeys. We had collected data. And user experience workshops whenever possible, and it used it for the process. Sorry. Yeah. So it is kind of sneaky, but it can be used definitely.
Great. Thanks so much, Sascha. I know you've got lots of experience in that particular area. Imtiaz, your thoughts on this one, please?
Yeah, I think kind of just to echo what's just been said really, and I just did it. I began to use problem trees. I began to use, again, with my lens as a BA, I just began to do things differently. And because I was doing and thinking differently and including people, I challenged more, I challenged better, because I was constantly going on about problem statements and customer need and customer want. I was almost in robot mode, right? People were just then thinking differently and not just going straight to, let's build an IT solution. Yes, again, from my perspective as a BA, just kind of forcing change through to doing and showing value.
Thanks, Imtiaz. That's great. And we do actually just have a live question that's coming in right now that if we can answer it for the viewer before the end of the show, that would be great. Adriana, do you have the live question?
Of course, Ellie. The question is coming from Aaron again, and he wants to know would the panel say that randomized control testing trials is an effective tool to pair with design thinking?
Okay, panel, our last question of the day. Let's help Aaron out. What do we know about randomized control testing and using it with design thinking? Aaron, you may have stumped our panel again for today. So, Sascha, we'll come to you.
Okay, so it's. I think this is a tool that might help you used in the latest part of the process when you have the prototype, and then you can use testing, or even since design thinking is about iterations, when you have a live iteration, then you can use randomized control testing and trials. So I think yes, in a way, of course, and I think it's hopefully it should be a part of design thinking usage already, in my slight opinion.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Sascha. Okay, thanks very much today, panel. That's the end of our questions. So I'd just like to thank our audience, who are effectively our producers, for the excellent questions that came in today. Great job, and watch out for your name in the credits if your question was selected. So panel, it's time for your closing remarks. So we will start with Rafal, please.
Yes, it was a real pleasure being in here. And as I heard other panelists and read the questions from the viewers, each of us thinks about design thinking and use design thinking in different way, which is wonderful, that we try in different ways. And it might be tough to use some new tool. For example, the question for using design thinking in administration and in public sector. I think that it is really important to improve our knowledge and competences in using this kind of methods. And I'm really glad that I was a part in here, because it helped to spread different views and knowledge about design thinking.
Thanks, Rafal, and thanks for joining us. We will definitely welcome you back to another show soon. Sascha, your thoughts on today's show, please.
So I think there has been already said many important points. Design thinking is a very good methodology to improve products for the customers, to improve basically everyday life for all of us. So if we can spread it like via panels like this, we should definitely do that. And thank you for inviting me, and it was a great fun.
Well, welcome. Thank you, Sascha, for joining us. Luca, your thoughts on today, please.
Yes, first of all, thank you. Thank you to you. Thank you to all the people who posed questions. My thought is that we are using this tool with success in portfolio management of IT initiatives, in order not to just start building another IT system, but to stay, pause, reflect, and understand how best to use our energies. And yeah, it's fantastic.
Thank you, Luca. And Thijs, your thoughts on today's show, please.
Yeah, I really love hearing all the different examples of how design thinking is being applied. It just shows the versatility of the tool as a toolbox and a method, but also the mindset that can be applied everywhere. If you need some resources, I have some books over there, but there are a lot of good books. I give training. When I do it with training, I really make it experiential. So I want to give people the confidence that you can pick up any design thinking tool and make your first steps and get some value out of it, like you learn something new or whatever. And that's just a way to learn. So really take a part of it, try it out, learn. You'll fail, great. You learn, great. And you move forward. And I compare it like it's starting when if you do it in your job environment, you're all learning like new schools. It's like becoming a band. You're all learning new instruments and you're trying to make music together. Of course, it's gonna sound off at the beginning. So have lots of fun with it and move on, and you get better along the way. But it definitely will improve your lives and your customers' lives. So just do it.
Brilliant. Thank you, Thijs. Imtiaz, your thoughts on today, please.
Yeah, thank you for attending. Thanks for the great questions. Brilliant. I guess I'll just go back to myself as a BA, business analyst. And like the guys have said, just pick a technique, do it. Invite more people to a workshop who may be interested in it, right? And just increase that span of insight, ideation, whatever it is, right? They'll have good input. It's a fantastic kind of framework, but yeah. And if anyone's interested, I'm also running some lunch and learns next year on design thinking. So feel free to connect on LinkedIn and I can send you more details. But thank you to APMG. Great webinar.
Thank you so much. Thanks, panel. That was a really great show. I think my favourite part was there's no problems, only projects. I'm going to take that one into the weekend with me. Adriana, your thoughts on today's session, please.
So I would like to say thank you so much to the panel because it's actually my first time in Level Up and my first time as QM, but it's been amazing and it's been so easy thanks to this amazing panel.
Yeah, you did a super job. Thanks, Adriana. Okay. So, audience, if you would like to find more expert answers to the audience questions, head over to our website where you can search through over 1,500 questions from previous shows. It's a comprehensive free resource connecting you with over 170 experts from around the world. Don't forget, you can also listen to the audio versions of all the Level Up shows on your preferred podcast platform. So coming up next week, we have another 2 great shows. Join us on Monday, the 5th of December, and we'll be talking about the hugely important topic of how to secure your future in a recession. And on Friday, the 9th of December, the panel will be answering questions on the ever popular topic of why everyone needs to be agile. Also coming up soon are our Christmas special shows on Monday, the 12th and Friday, the 16th of December. These will be a great opportunity to get to know the panelists a little more and get some sneak peeks behind the scenes of Level Up. So make sure you keep in touch with the latest episodes and don't forget to subscribe to the show. I will send you a personal summary of what's coming up and how you could join us here on the panel and level up your career with APMG. So thanks everyone, and we'll see you on the next show.